Hello and welcome. I'm Nick.
I am Tyler, also known as Green Bay Hornet.
There you go from Top Notch Sports. And today we're going to be going over the Green Bay Packers mock draft for the 2023 NFL Draft. This was a 32 GM content creator mock draft. Real interesting. Tyler, let me ask you this first. What was your thoughts behind this? Did you enjoy it? And so on and so forth. You just tell me your thoughts on the whole thing.
I had a wonderful time, even though the rain and thunderstorms definitely got into our way a lot. A lot of freezes happened. But overall, I had a hell of a time. I got through most of the draft before my head and exhaustion kind of set in. But I overall had an amazing time. I can't wait to do it again next year. I felt really strong about my draft class, and I overall had an absolutely fantastic time.
All right, that's good. And again, we're going to be doing it again next year. The whole event was pretty dang fun, to be honest with you. What do you think? Like you say, your draft, you think it went pretty dang well then, from my understanding?
Yes, I thought it went really well. Not perfect, but obviously nothing is. But I think I did a very good job addressing our needs for the most part and getting appropriate depth, especially with, a new era of Packers football coming in the post Aaron Rodgers era.
Absolutely. And again, we got some trades and everything that we did for this live, this mock draft. It was a real fun experience. Now we're going to go into the slides, and then from there, we're going to do everything else. So we'll see you guys right at the slides.
180. 180, set.
All right, so here we are now. We're officially in the slide. So first things first, we see Matt LaFleur. Let me ask you, Tyler, what do you think about Matt LaFleur?
I think he's a very good coach. I think the hot seat rumors are a bit absurd. Like, if Rodgers was still here, I know he's still here, but he's 99.9% going to be gone. So I feel you need to let him work with Jordan Love. You can't automatically blame the coach, because if Jordan Love sucks, then I don't think Matt should go. And look, when you're firing your head coach, you always have to think of this. Is there a better guy available or a better fit available? That's the only way you fire your coach. If you just fire for the sake of firing, it's an atrocious idea. So
Absolutely.
Overall, I like Matt LaFleur. He's done, especially his first 3 years, we won 13 games each season. Obviously, this year was a down year, and some of it was poor play calling, but a lot of stuff out of his control. We were very hurt this year, especially at the wide receiver position and offensive line. So that didn't help anything. We had the most drops in the NFL at 30, which is almost to a game, which is unacceptable. And the defense wasn't really that impressive outside of, let's say, like the past maybe 5 or 6 games. So I think overall there's a lot of factors you have to involve, but I do really like Matt LaFleur. I do think he's at the very worst a top 12 coach in the National Football League.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you with that. And again, I think that he has a bright future ahead, even though, he's been there for quite some time. But again, I think he's been doing a phenomenal job. I believe he's one of the most winningest coaches in the National Football League right now, percentage wise, with all the games that he's coached, which hasn't been too many, but at the number that he has, I believe he's one of the most winningest coaches for the number of, games that he's coached for. All right. Enough said about Matt LaFleur. Let's hop into this now. All right. So here's my grade scale. So I'm going to break this down a little bit, just so you know. Okay, I graded four things. Four trades that you made during the draft itself as a whole, the talent that you drafted, and fit or need, the positions that you needed. Did you draft that as well? And, I basically give you a grade on all of them. Now, again, just a quick example. I'm going to give you a number score, which is more accurate, and a quick example here, it could be a 50. And if you receive a 50, everyone's like, oh man, that's an F. No, it's not an F. A 50 is actually a C plus. Okay. So again, it might look low, but in reality, it's not bad. You know, an F's a 0. If you get a 0, then that's terrible. You know, again, like here's a good example. You get a 75 and it's a B plus. In real life, a B plus is like an 88, 89. So I want to make this clear that the top-notch sports grading scale is a little bit, you know, different than most other grade scales. But does this make sense to you then?
Yeah, this makes perfect sense. Honestly, I don't know. Are you ever going to have an F? I really don't think you'll ever have an
No,
F.
you know, probably not. I mean, unless somebody has horrible trading, and at that point, I would probably veto them. So, all right, that's that. You get 4-letter grades, 4, you know, main grades, and basically you get GM points for your draft experience. So let's see what we got here. Here we go. All right. So this is your actual depth chart in real life. So Tyler, I'm going to ask you, what do you think about the roster right now as it currently stands?
Well, the roster right now, like, it's not a horrible roster. Like, there isn't many, like, crazy, like, bad needs. Like, you know, I mean, linebacker, this is our best linebacking group in years, maybe even a decade, with Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker. Rashawn Gary, and when healthy, is obviously a very good player. Preston Smith, a solid player. Kingsley Enagbari, solid rotation player. Kenny Clark, really good defensive tackle. And the offensive line is strong as well. I know David Bakhtiari isn't long-term, but he is sticking around for at least one more year. And you have Josh Nijman behind him, who's a very capable backup himself. Elton Jenkins is a very good left guard. Josh Myers, a steady, solid center. Right guard, I'm not as confident in. Jon Runyan, just okay. It's not horrible, but I do think you can get better than Jon Runyan. And Zach Tom, I think, has a very nice future ahead of him at right tackle. Can obviously play almost anywhere on the offensive line, but I do believe he can be a very good right tackle in the NFL. Then running back, you're mostly fine. Aaron Jones, obviously one of the best running backs in the NFL, and A.J. Dillon, one of the best backup running backs in the NFL. Now, receivers, obviously a work in progress. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Samori Toure, the top 3 guys on the roster. You would like to get a better number 3 than Samori Toure. Nothing against him, but I see him more as a depth receiver than anything. I think Christian Watson may have potential to be a number 1, whether it be a low-end 1, maybe a mid, maybe like an average number 1. And I think Romeo Doubs, maybe a low number 2, high number 3 type of ceiling I could see for him. So I'd say overall I'm pretty confident in this roster outside of tight end, as with Josiah DeGuara, that is a major weakness. And Darnell Savage and Tarvarius Moore isn't what I'd call an ideal safety pairing.
Absolutely. And again, as someone that, you know, doesn't watch his team every Sunday, like you said, the wide receiver room, nice core between Watson and Doubs. You know, you're going to want to get an extra receiver, tight end for sure. I mean, again, from looking from the outside in, offensive line, like you said, is pretty dang solid. Defensive line, again, not bad at all either, really. I mean, in reality, you know, I love Eric Stokes coming out. Jair Alexander's a monster. I love Quay Walker. So you got a really nice squad here. You know, you really do. And for a team that really kind of didn't do good last year, I mean, they finished, what, 8-9 last year, 3rd in the NFC North?
Yes.
I mean, again, I really would have expected this roster to do better than that. But again, there are definitely room for improvement. And again, we're going to see a few of those things in the upcoming slides. So now let's go to the next slide where we're going to break down what you did. All right. These are Tyler's GM moves. Okay. So I'll break it down real fast and then we'll talk about everything after. So first things first, trades. Okay. What did you do in the war room? And you did quite a lot. So let's start with this. You got rid of Rodgers. You did the unimaginable. You got it done, Tyler. Congratulations. Give yourself a round of applause. That is amazing. We're all waiting to see if that happens in real life. But, man, we've been waiting for a while. All right. So what did you get? So we're not going to break it down trade by trade. You know, oh, you traded the Jets this and you traded the blah, blah, blah this. We're just going to look at receive and give away. So ultimately, you bring in Jeremy Ruckert from the tight end position, which, again, this all comes with the Jets trade, clearly. Cornerback Bryce Hall, wide receiver Denzel Mims, the 43rd overall pick, 112, a 5th round next year, and you got a 2024 conditional, first, second, or third. You get a first if you make the Super Bowl, second if you make the playoffs, and you get a 3rd round pick if you miss the playoffs. This is all for the Aaron Rodgers trade for the most part. I mean, this part of it at least. Then you're giving away Rodgers. You're giving away, TJ Slayton. You're going to give away a 2023 78th overall pick, the 150th, and a 6th round pick next year. So ultimately, when I look at this, I see this. Without the players, you're moving from 78 to 43, and you're moving from 150 to 112. Plus, you're bringing in Mims, Hall, and Rucker for Rodgers and Slayton. So basically, and you're getting a first, second, or 3rd round next year, which most likely is probably going to be a 2. I think we can both agree probably a 2 is likely. So for me, I'm looking at it being like, hell, I mean, you did a really good job trading. I mean, what do you think? What's your thoughts on your trades?
I felt it was solid. I brought in Rucker because I feel he was a better prospect than most tight ends in this class, and I feel he could be starter potential, but the Jets have 2 decent tight ends. Tyler Conklin's decent. CJ Uzomah's serviceable. So he isn't going to play there. So I figured, why not get a tight end you felt high of during the draft and you feel could make an impact day one with Jordan Love, give him another weapon to work with. And the picks were obviously the main part. I wanted to get as much draft capital as possible to give Jordan Love all the extra young talent we need, because this is still like, I know it's been mostly the same roster for a bit, but it's still a pretty young football team, especially on defense. It's a very young roster that definitely has upside.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, you look at it, it's crazy what you were able to do. And like I said, it's really good all around. It was a really good, draft and trading here. So now we look at the draft. So the picks in purple, the picks that are your original picks, I believe, and the ones in blue are the ones that, are unoriginal, ones that you got via trade, 43 and 112. And that, so those are those 2. Okay. So long story short, we sit here and we see this. What do we ultimately got? In the first round, you go out and take tight end Michael Mayer. What do you think about tight end Michael Mayer?
I think it was a necessary move because even though I did get Rucker, I might as well double down. I might as well run a sort of 2-way tight end set, get for most people, the best tight end in this class, reliable guy that gets over the middle of the field, gets you those 7 to 12-yard gains almost every single down, and give Jordan Love a bit of a safety blanket, especially because this receiver room is still very young.
Absolutely. Like you said, Michael Mayer's a guy that, I'm a big fan of him too. I mean, he's my number 2 ranked tight end as of, when we did this draft. He's a guy that is, 6'4", 249. He ran a little bit slow for my liking, 4.7 40. But I just feel like he's an old school tight end, man. He's an old school guy. He's gonna fight for extra yards. I've seen him hurdle over guys. He can do a little bit of everything. And honestly, I like his route running, in my opinion. I thought it was really good for a tight end. And honestly, pretty dang good compared to the wide receivers too in this year's draft class, which I don't feel like is a great class, to say the least. All right, 2nd round pick. You take a wide receiver named Rashee Rice. What do you think about that one?
Well, as much as I love Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and I do think they're the future, we need another guy. We need another guy that can get separation and make plays, especially over the middle of the field, and Rashee Rice excels at that. He's not like a burner, but he always manages to find his way to get separation over the middle, and I do believe, like, at his best, I do believe Rashee Rice can be a solid number 2 wide receiver in this league to complement Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs.
Absolutely. All right. And, again, he's my number 2 wide receiver, 6 foot, 204, 4'5", 140. Has a size and speed to, it'd be a great combo at the next level. He can box out defenders. He does a great job adjusting the back shoulder balls. He's a guy that I really, really like. And again, you get this guy in the 2nd round. Okay. looking great so far. You got my number 2 tight end. You got my number 2 wide receiver. Well, let's see what's next. Let's go to the defensive end, Felix Uzama. What do you think about him?
So obviously Preston Smith is on an expiring contract, and Rashawn Gary is going to be out for probably at least half the season with a torn ACL, unfortunately. So we desperately need some more edge rushing support, and Felix Anudike Uzama was the best edge rusher that was available at the time I was picking, which was 45th overall. And I do like Kingsley Enagbare, but I do believe he is more of a rotational player. And I think Felix Anudike Uzama could be a legitimate starter. And I do think it would be a nice young duo for the future with Rashawn Gary and Felix Anudike Uzama heading into the next few years.
Absolutely. And Uzama, for me, again, I mean, you want to talk about hitting on every guy I like. This is my 3rd ranked edge rusher. Okay. 6'3", 255, 33-inch reach, has a great dip and rip move, is able to he also has a really good jump, dip, and rip move, which really frees him around the edge, takes a really nice straight angle to the quarterback. He consistently beats double teams in college and is still able to make an impact. He also shows a swim move. He has a variety of moves to defeat the blockers, and he chases down some screen passes and makes plays all over the field. This is another pick, man, I absolutely am in love with. Your first 3 picks have been phenomenal. All right, let's go to the next guy, 3rd round safety, Antonio Johnson. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I was actually somewhat surprised. I know people consider this safety class weak, including myself, but Antonio Johnson is definitely not one of them, because even though Texas A&M had a very lackluster season, and especially in the run defense category, but Antonio Johnson was a bright spot. He can play in the slot, free or strong safety, can even play a little bit of linebacker. And obviously I traded Darnell Savage in this mock. So I wanted to start out fresh with safety, and I believe Antonio Johnson can start really anywhere you want him to, preferably at, I guess, strong safety, since Tarvarius Moore will likely start at free safety. But I like his versatility, and he excels at every role he can. And for a guy that I had as a pretty early 2nd-round talent, getting him in the 3rd round at pick 81 was absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. So, again, I mean, there's your replacement for Darnell Savage. Now, again, people are probably like, oh, why are they listed here? We couldn't fit them all over here on the left. So, again, Darnell Savage is another piece that you did end up moving on from. But again, it is what it is. And again, we'll add that on another slide in the future too, so we keep track of that. So that's Antonio Johnson. Okay. 3rd round, now you take offensive guard Andrew Voorhees. Explain that pick.
So Andrew Voorhees, I really liked at USC, but obviously his draft stock was going to be hit hard because he tore his ACL, but he still rocked that bench press. What was it? He did 35 bench reps.
I believe so. Something like that.
Yeah, but considering I had him as probably the 2nd best guard in this class, only behind O'Cyrus Torrence. And now normally when I use my high picks, I like to get guys that start away. But Voorhees was more talented than any of the other players at pick 91. And I do think John Runyon can be decent, but I feel like we can be better at that right guard spot. And I think Andrew Voorhees could be a very good right guard. I know he played left tackle at USC before moving to left guard, so maybe you can experiment with him at tackle if you really wanted to, but for the most part, he's going to be playing at, at least for us, he'd be playing right guard, and I think the talent was just too much to pass up on at pick 91.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So again, I mean, that's that. You bring in Voorhees. And again, I'm going to be honest with you, Voorhees is ranked my number 2 interior offensive lineman. So, I mean, again, he's a guy that, has a torn ACL. That's the biggest concern. But besides that, I mean, his tape was absolutely out of this world. All right. Now, the next 2 guys, okay? I'm going to actually let you take the next few guys here. Safety, Sidney Brown. Defensive tackle, edge rusher, Carl Brooks. Jake Haener. And wide receiver, Andre Ioshovas. I'll let you just run through them. Let's do a speed round real fast. A little bit that you got to say about each of them.
All right. So Sidney Brown, obviously I I feel like I need more at safety. There just is not enough depth there, and I think Sidney Brown can do a lot of what you want in a safety, solid size, good hitting power, has some nice ball skills as well. And overall, I think he's a pretty well-rounded prospect. Defensive tackle Carl Brooks. I feel the interior could use some more, particularly in the pass rush department, because we haven't had – I know Kenny Clark can get after the passer, but we haven't had like a prolific interior pass rusher since Mike Daniels was a Packer. And I think Carl Brooks could be a very good, at the worst, I feel he could be a very good specialist, because I know he isn't the best against the run, but I feel some pass rush from the interior will be needed. And then Jake Haener, there's only 2 quarterbacks on this roster, well, at least on mine. So obviously there's Jordan Love and there's Danny Etling, but I feel Haener is pretty like pro ready if you really need him to be as a backup in case, God forbid, Jordan Love gets hurt. Doesn't turn over the ball, very accurate with the football, places it in really good positions for his wide receivers and tight ends and running backs out of the backfield to succeed. And then the final one of this bunch, Andre Iosivas, a big body guy. Doesn't always play up to his size, though, which does tick me off, but I feel the talent is there. He definitely has that big body and the strength to be a good wide receiver. Obviously, he'd be a depth guy very early on, but there's little depth outside of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Rashee Rice, and even Denzel Mims, if you want to include him in there. So getting depth and some big bodies is definitely necessary.
Absolutely. And Iosivas, again, 6'3", 205, and a 4.43 40. Guy that's big, that can run pretty dang fast. That's him. Carl Brooks is a guy, he's an interesting prospect too. Like you said, he plays a little bit of interior and on the outside. You can use a little bit of both. The one thing I noted was he played with great effort. It's tough for me not to like him. The main thing I had, about him is, like I said, no, I'm sorry. He is a very versatile. I wrote he's very versatile, plays inside and outside. So, Tyler, I actually see exactly what you saw. The main thing I said, though, I don't know if he's fast enough to play on the edge in the NFL level. But I said he plays with relentless effort to get to the quarterback. So, again, that's something to like for sure. You talked about Jake Haener. I've seen Jake Haener before. Let's talk about the next guy that I like, too, DeWayne McBride. What do you think about him?
I love DeWayne McBride. One of my favorite players in this draft period, let alone running backs. But, now, his speed isn't great, but the dude's got contact balance. The dude is literally a boulder coming downhill. He hasn't shown much in the receiving game, but that won't be that's not a super big concern, especially with Dillon and Aaron Jones being actually very prolific pass catchers for running backs. Now, the main reason I did bring him is obviously A.J. Dillon is on expiring. And that's a lot of money to be paying, starting level money to 2 running backs is a lot. So I could either see us moving on from Aaron Jones, maybe even letting Dillon walk and then have McBride be the number 2, or trade Aaron Jones, pay up Dillon, and then have McBride be the backup running back. So I could see either one of those 2 scenarios happening, but I felt DeWayne was the best running back available, was one of my top running backs. I love the guy. I love the way he plays. And I think on third and short situations, he's just checkmate.
Absolutely. And again, you mentioned that balance. That's something I wrote down. He fights for extra yards and has a great balance for sure. All right. The next few picks, I'll let you just another speed round here for these guys. Marino, Cropper, Lupicki, Moody, Telfer, and Haskins. Go ahead.
All right. So Jalen Moreno Cropper is the final depth piece at receiver, was the number 1 receiver for Jake Haener at Fresno State. So I definitely didn't draft them because they're both from Fresno State. I'm a Boise State fan, so don't get it twisted. But I think Jalen Moreno Cropper is a well-rounded receiver, 6'1", runs good routes. And hey, the last time we got a Fresno State receiver was Davante Adams. Obviously, I'm not going to say he's Davante Adams. He almost 100% won't be, but he's a pretty well-rounded receiver and could be excellent depth. Hunter Lupke, we haven't really had a fullback that was productive since Aaron Ripkowski. And now I know fullback is a nigh extinct position in the NFL, but they still have their niche. Luepke, a well-rounded back that can catch out of the backfield, but also an excellent blocker, which would be great for passing downs. Another pass protector for Jordan Love, and could honestly be the best pass protector out of the backfield right away. Kicker Jake Moody was basically the best kicker in college football. And he was really the only one that could kick like 50 plus yards pretty comfortably that I noticed. And Mason Crosby, he isn't going to be here much longer. The dude, I want to say, is 38 or 39. He's almost at his expiration date. So we need a youthful kicker in there. And I do think Jake Moody has the chance to be a star kicker. And then the tackle, I know this is a more popular pick earlier, but I feel pretty comfortable with this offensive line. Obviously, I took Voorhees, but his talent was way too good to pass up on. But I like Kadeem Telford. He's a huge dude, 6'7", 330 pounds, a massive dude that can move exceptionally well. I want to say has 36-inch arms, massive arms, tree trunks for arms, and is just very smooth. Definitely more of a better run blocker than a pass protector, though. He did only allow 1 sack and 8 pressures on the season. So he's definitely a project, but I think he could be, a solid, at worst, a solid swing tackle if developed correctly. And then the final pick, an unknown to many draft people, is Devin Haskins out of Holy Cross. Now, I mainly picked him because he is massive for a corner, 6'4", around 200 pounds, but also did very well on special teams, was productive on special teams and defense. I want to say 4 interceptions and 16 pass deflections, along with 4 blocked kicks, which is crazy for one player. Some teams don't even get 4 blocked kicks. And I think, especially with this offseason, with how much the Packers have emphasized fixing the special teams to make it a respectable unit, I think Devin Haskins would be a wonderful addition to that group, and also just another big body at corner.
Absolutely. So I like how you summed that all up. All right, now we're going to go to the next slide. So, Tyler, here are the moves that you made, okay? Guys in blue are the guys you drafted, guys in greens are the guys that you guys signed, guys in pink are the guys that you traded for. You know, what do you think when you look at this roster, this depth chart here, what do you think?
It's definitely side. There is definitely not a whole lot of veterans. Obviously, you have your obvious and like Dave Bakhtiari's, but there's a lot of like young guys, a lot of only second, third year guys. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Josh Myers, Michael Mayer, and guys like Rashee Rice, Carl Brooks, and Felix Anudike-Uzomah. So this is overall a very young roster. So they definitely can go through some growing pains. It's definitely going to happen. It happens with every young player on every young team. But there's a lot of upside. I definitely see a ton of upside with this roster, especially on the defense. I actually think has even more upside than the offense, unless Jordan Love becomes like a superstar. And I think Jordan Love is put in a pretty solid position to succeed with a lot of young talent. The offensive line should be steady enough. The receivers should be much better. And obviously, we won't have as many drops as we did last year. And hopefully we can stay healthy, which is a huge thing for us.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, you look at it, let's just start about what you did. I love Denzel Mims, the player coming out of college. Andrew Voorhees is my number 2 ranked interior offensive lineman. Michael Mayer is my number 2 ranked tight end. Rashee Rice is my number 2 ranked wide receiver. You know, Uzomah is my number 3 ranked edge rusher. You know, and then you got Carl Johnson, who are also very good players that are going to be able to make an, immediate impact for your team. To me, this is a solid roster. You know, your linebacking core, again, is solid with Walker. You got 2 good corners in Stokes and Alexander. Johnson now helping out more. You know, you got a boatload of edge rushers that you can use. And you got solid weapons now for Jordan Love as well. And like you said, now you got DeWayne McBride, Aaron Jones, and A.J. Dillon. So ultimately, let me ask you this. The team went 8-9 last year. What do you think they go this year? With this roster, if they did this, what do you think they end up doing?
Well, everything depends on Jordan Love. If he sucks, well, then we're probably like a 6-win team, maybe even worse. But if Jordan Love is like decent to good, then I could see this team winning 9, maybe 10 games. 11 or more would be very unlikely unless like we'd have to get a lot of breaks and a lot of guys would have to pop off. So I'd say if I had to go with the uncertainty of Jordan Love, I'll say he has a decent rookie year. I'd say 9 wins.
Yeah, I don't know what I honestly that's that's a very good prediction by you. I honestly think I like this draft and this mock-up so much. And I was a fan of Jordan Love coming out of college too. I was betting on his upside, and I think Matt LaFleur will build an offense around him. I truly believe with this roster, I think the Packers can go 10-7. I think 10-7 is fair. I think 10-7 finishing. It's tough because I'll be honest with you. The NFC North's tough as hell. The Lions are tough. The Bears are getting better. But I think 10-7 could be a fair, if they make these moves, I think 10-7 is fair. You get a boatload of weapons. I feel like you probably finish second in the NFC North next year if these are the moves that are made. And you probably end up losing in the, you might make it to the divisional round. But again, I mean, if you do, it's a tough race. It's really tough race. Tough division, tough race. That's my prediction. Is there anything else you want to talk about on this slide?
I don't think there's anything. The only thing I was debating was Tarvarius Moore would start over Sidney Brown. I'm just going to put Tarvarius Moore because he has experience, but I know he'll also be on special teams, so I don't know what his snap count. Maybe him and Sidney Brown rotate between the free safety spot. So that's the only thing I want to mention there.
Absolutely. And again, now I'm going to show the two between each other. So this is before, this is before, this is after. Before, after, before, after. Okay. I see many improvements. When you go fast here, Antonio Johnson's replacing Darnell Savage. You got Carl Brooks replacing T. Darrell Slayton. You're adding depth at the edge rusher position. You're adding a multiple wide receivers to your wide receiver room. And you're bringing in Andrew Voorhees to compete for that right guard spot, and you're bringing in a top-tier tight end to replace Josiah DeGuara. Awesome job. But now let me ask you this. This is a roster that you got to live with right now. And Thursday, everything starts to change. What's the biggest weakness with this roster, and how do you feel about the current roster of the Green Bay Packers right now?
I feel like decently optimistic about it. I think there definitely is upside, mainly on defense, actually, but there is on offense. I do think Zach Tom can be better. Josh Myers can be better. Romeo Doubs can be better. Christian Watson can be better. The main weaknesses are, again, safety, because it's the issue with the safety group is they did a very poor tackling job last year, and they need to do a much better job this year. And tight end, we just have just like any threats or any like good players whatsoever. It's just very barren. Like Josiah DeGuara is more like a fullback hybrid, if anything. And while I do think wide receiver is semi of a weakness, I think there's enough upside to that it can become a strength in the near future.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And again, here's another thing about this team too. I mean, it's a very young team, but let me ask you this now. Okay. What do you think they attacked in the first round in real life? Do you think they're going to go possibly tight end in the first round?
Going tight end. I can't even remember the last time the Packers took a tight end in the last time, and the last truly good tight end we had was Jermichael Finley. And I know people will say, no, Derek Cook wasn't even that good. He showed up for like 2 games all season, and one of them he made a miraculous catch to help us win that game. And obviously I thank him for that, but it's not enough to consider him a good tight end. Jermichael Finley was the last reliable tight end that actually made a difference in the offense. And I don't know if they do. I mean, maybe they target. I know they had an interview with Darnell Washington in the second, so maybe. But I don't know. Do you see Darnell Washington going at 45? I don't even know if he'll be there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, again, he could get taken early, but like that's the whole question I have for you. Like, what do you? All right, so you took Michael Mayer because he fell to you, and you felt like that was the best pick for your team at the time, right? That was the move. The question I have
Yes.
now is, I mean, who's your dream? Like, who do you want them to take on Thursday?
There's like a bunch of guys that I like. I like Brian Branch. I think could be a very just a safe pick and give this team some reliable tackling on defense, which for the most part this team isn't good at. I do like Mayer and Kincaid almost equally. I do slightly prefer Michael. And receiver, I'd have to say Jackson Smith-Njigba. I do believe that if he was healthy, he would have been the clear-cut wide receiver number one.
Yep.
So I would love to get Jackson Smith-Njigba, but I like some other guys. I like Lucas Van Ness. Now, he's a bit of a tweener. He kind of has the problem that former Hawkeye AJ Epinesa had, where he's like not a true edge, but he really isn't a true D tackle either. He's kind of like what, in terms of just like where he is, sort of like JJ Watt, just not JJ Watt, obviously. Where he's like a big dude, but he isn't like he's like a tweener. That's what he is. He's a tweener. Though I do think he can wreck it in the inside, and I do think we need it inside, an inside rusher, and I do like Lucas Van Ness a bit. Miles Murphy, again, a very athletic dude, hasn't put it all together, but I definitely see the upside with him. And Nolan Smith actually might have an edge just because he's also a very good run defender despite his smaller stature.
All right, so let me ask you this. They're all on the board. Who do you end up taking?
If they're all on the board, that's tough. I think I'd probably have to go Jackson Smith-Njigba because I do believe he has the upside of a true number one wide receiver. And I do totally believe he can be a game wrecker.
And let me ask you this final thing I want to ask you before we go on to the next part. If Brian Branch was there at your pick, because he got taken early, which was a shocker, I think, to the entire, mock draft, would you have taken him over Michael Mayer? Or would you still want Michael Mayer?
So this is if it was at pick 15, 26 or 28?
Honestly, well, yeah, because who'd you take? I'm trying to think, because you ended up with only one first, correct?
Yes, I only had one first.
Yeah, so it would have been that one. So what was your first round pick then? The 20?
I was at 15, then I moved down to 26 and then to 28.
Yes, all right. So ultimately you chose at 28 then. So at 28, if Branch was there, would you have taken Branch over Mayer or no?
My strategy probably would have been at that point to take Brian Branch and then move as quickly as possible to try to get Michael Mayer.
Okay, so you wanted both for sure then.
Yeah, if I could. That's like almost a dream scenario, but I probably would have taken Branch just because I feel he might be the safest player I could have gotten. Same with Mayer. I went very safe in round one because I don't want to get a project. I don't want to get someone that I have to work on. I want an immediate contributor. That's what you want from your first round picks. You want instant contributors.
Absolutely. All right. Now the main event, the final grade. Are you ready for this?
I am 100% ready.
Okay, drum roll. So this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Screw the Packers. Let's see how you did. Let's see how our analysts rank you. Now, again, it's interesting. A lot of people so far have been, flabbergasted because there have been only one A- handed out the entire time at all. Okay, so everybody's been in the B's or C's in all the categories. So let's see how you do. So, again, we got the fourth category. Let's see the first category. Let's reveal it. Trades. You were given an A-. That's the second A- or better handed out this entire time so far. You're trading. For the most part, you dumped Rodgers and you got a boatload for Rodgers. You dumped a few other, picks and things that you had to dump, Darnell Savage and whatnot, and you got picks back and you were able to make moves with it. A minus. What do you think? Let us know if you agree, disagree. What do you think?
No, A minus is probably about what I had. I wish I could have traded up, but everyone had about their picks in the early second round, so that kind of prevented me from an A plus. So I think A minus is very fair.
Okay, now let's see the second grade. Draft. The overall draft's an A. This is the first A that's been handed out so far. So overall, between your needs, the talent, and everything, you end up receiving an A. What do you think about that?
I'd say overall that's about right. Maybe I could have taken a linebacker because Chris Barnes did leave, so maybe I could have put an extra guy. But outside of that, I feel very comfortable with my draft picks. So I'd say A is about right.
Okay. All right, now let's see the third grade. Talent. It's an A. So far, there's been one A minus handed out besides you. And now you racked up 3 A's, basically, in the A's. What do you think about talent as an A?
I do think the talent is a bit boosted just because of Voorhees, and he fell because of his torn ACL. But again, I went best talent available in the third round. I want to keep this O-line as nourished and talented as possible, and I do think Voorhees can be a legit Pro Bowl guard at the next level. But I do like Rashee Rice, Mayer. I like a lot of my guys in terms of the talent and also for depth.
All right, let me ask you this. What do you think you're going to receive for need? I'll ask you. What do you think?
Need, I'm going to go B+.
All right, let's say A. Again, A's across the board. What do you think about this?
I'm super happy. I'm proud.
I mean, the highest score you can receive for GM points is 2,000 GM points. The closest anyone's gotten besides you so far has, I think, been 900. So now let's take a look and see what you earned. 1,500 GM points have been awarded to you via this draft. What do you think about that? That's going to help you come free agency time.
Hell yeah, baby. Hell yeah.
I don't think we're going to have a higher grade. I'm going to be honest with you. So that's that. Now let's look at the next part. Final score, you get a 90, which is extremely high. Again, right now, I think the highest has been 75 besides yours, or maybe a 78. I forget. And last but not least, the grade ultimately comes down to an A minus. So there are your grades. That's what you got. What do you think?
I am extremely satisfied with this. I will gladly take it, and I'll take my GM points for next year's free agency because, well, actually, believe it or not, I know it sounds like a myth, the Packers will have something called cap space most likely. So I do believe that I can actually effectively use those GM points to make this roster very strong. But I'm very happy with the way I'm done. I'm very happy with what I'm looking at with the grades. And overall, I feel warm inside, man.
Absolutely. Now, here's the thing now. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, when you're already on the top of the mountain, the only thing that can happen when we do the reevaluation is possibly a landslide. Let's hope these stay as A's, and we're right, because right now, this is the highest, grade we have delivered. And not only that, like I said, I don't think we could get much higher than this. I think this is the highest it can get. So the only thing that can happen now in the regrade is going to be worse, which, again, we don't take away GM points. We just give you more, but then some other people's drafts might go up. So, again, we'll wait and see. But right now, we are very pleased with their draft. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed. Now we're going to go back and finish off this video and just talk for a few minutes. So let's stay tuned, and we'll be right there. All right, we are back. That's it. That's a wrap. So far, you're very happy about the grades. I mean, overall experience, let me know what you think. What do you think here?
I feel very happy right now. happy I have some of the highest grades out of all the general managers in this draft. I feel I did a very good job, and I feel confident in my picks and in myself. And I think I addressed almost every need and every depth need. And it's overall, I had a hell of a time doing this with you guys. I definitely can't wait for next year and how it plays out, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of changes from now to then.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be a very fun time. I felt great about pretty much everything, and I mean I've been committed to this pretty much almost since day one. So I'm very proud to be a part of this team. And again, Nick, thanks for everything. Thank you for inviting me to this, and I'm super happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Now, if you want to plug your page, go ahead. I'll let you plug your page now. If you want to tell the people about your page, let them know.
All right, so I might as well. I'm Green Bay Hornet on Instagram, just simply Green Bay Hornet, no dashes, no anything. And I mainly just post some podcast stuff, since I'm trying to get into podcasting and sports announcing and stuff like that as of right now. So I definitely will be planning on doing more in the future. Definitely look to improve my game. And hey, I'm open to constructive criticism. If there's something you think I did wrong, I'll be happy to talk to you about it. And I always want to get better. You can always get better. I do not believe perfection exists, and you can always get better.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree. And I'm keep on telling you, as soon as you create a Packers page, I'm going to let the whole world know about it, because again, you are one of the better, Packers GMs. Clearly, what you did was pretty dang phenomenal. So again, pat yourself on the back and congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all from us. Is there anything else that you want to say?
I have no further comments. I feel pretty good about everything, and overall, and my podcast is called Talking with Tyler. That is the name of my podcast, since that's my name. So if you want to check out Talking with Tyler, it's in the link on my Instagram, Green Bay Hornet. I'll repeat one more time. And I'd say overall, that's all. Yeah, I'd say that's everything.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all from us. We'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are built better.
We are built better.